So you're welcome to today's presentation, and the title is Emotional Agility in Feedback. And I'm going to share a story with you shortly. I want to begin with a story which I think feels familiar to many of us. A friend of mine who is the CEO of an organization was developing an app for our business, and she shared an idea with our team. What if we had a song selection to the feature we are currently developing? And what happened when she shared this was that several people on our team shared the idea. They were so very much into it, and some sect of people in that meeting were not so really into it. And as she was having that discussion with me, she mentioned that the ladies there were really, really very passionate about it, and they wanted the music section to be added to the app, while the men on the team were on the fence. And what I could see from there was that the men were analytic, and you could see them processing the logistics, the code, and how to make that happen. But the women in the room were immediately connecting with the emotions and what was supposed to happen and how it was going to help with their customers and everything. So the women there were lit up and they loved the idea. Why is this very important to what we're talking about today? It's about connective intelligence when it comes to women. We feel things deeply and we connect it with whatever that is in existence in our history. When you see a situation happen, immediately you can relate it to something that you're experiencing or something that you've experienced in time past. And that sort of intensify whatever information is coming right at you at that current time. And without much ado, let me just introduce myself. My name is Tutu Ariyo. I'm a coach, a professional coach, an Agile coach, and I'm also a Scrum Master. I'm an Agile delivery manager because I work with a consultancy company where they can, give me out to anybody and, to clients at whatever is necessary to do per time. So today I bring to us a concept about emotional agility and how we as givers of feedback and receivers of feedback are able to interact with feedback. We're going to do a little exercise right now, okay? Don't worry, everything that we have on this slide is going to be shared with you as a PDF, okay? So you can do more of listening and participating in the activities, and every other thing you can get it in PDF, and trust me, I also have a couple of things here that we're going to share on our tables. So, I want to ask us. Okay, so my clicker is not. Okay. I'll use one. Which animal do you most resemble when you receive unexpected or difficult feedback? When I tell you cannot give you feedback, which animal represents when you receive unexpected feedback? Now, I need you to turn to your neighbor, somebody sitting close to you, and sort of, if there's not of the animals here that represent you, no worries, right? No worries, that's perfectly okay. Just have that conversation with your neighbor sitting close to you, and let's have it. If you are the person that receives the feedback like a dog, oh, I'm so excited, tail wagging and everything, tongue rolling, or like a dare, like, oh, did I just receive, and you freeze? Or you're like the hedgehog, you just want to fight back. Yes, I've received a difficult one. Or octopus, it's just like, oh, it's all about me. You handle everything and you're so not so very happy about it. A tortoise, you kind of like take a long time to process, and it takes such a hopeful length of time. And the cat, you're kind of like, excuse me, did you just refer to me? So, which one? So have that conversation very quickly among yourself, and I give you 5 minutes to do that.
I tend to get angry if somebody's giving me feedback because I think they don't know what I'm talking about. Like I said, I don't perceive it like that. I feel more
So we appreciate if you can help me with some photos of the audience, of myself.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Okay, let's have it. What is that animal? Who wants to shout out their animal? Who? Yes.
I think I'm an octopus.
Octopus.
Yeah.
How? Why is that?
When I get feedback, I sometimes do not take the time to really ask follow-up questions to
Okay.
understand what the person means.
Mhm.
I just try to fix it straight away.
Yeah, a fixer.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then when I'm done, I bring it back and then there's more feedback. Then I turn into a hedgehog because
Straight on.
it's what's your problem? Why are you still giving me?
Yeah. Right. Who else? We just take one more. Yeah. It's a safe space. Yeah.
If it could be two animals, because it always depends on the day,
Yeah.
how the day is going, and who was giving feedback, it would be a mix between cat and turtle. Yeah.
Between cat and a turtle. Thank you very much. So I'm going to share a story with you, another story. I'm a storyteller. Sorry. You've got me today to deal with. So I'll share my story with you about a feedback I received a while back. As you're looking at me, I thought I'm someone that received feedback very well. I thought I'm so amazing that when you give me feedback, I can take it and all that. So I received a particular feedback that really shook me. And it came at a time in my life when I had health issues. I had a problem with one of my children, and there was a possibility of a layoff in my organization. How many of us can relate with that? There was redundancy going on, and all three things. And every day to me felt like a battle. And right there in the middle of all this, a senior colleague whose job wasn't at risk gave me a feedback about something which they thought I wasn't doing well. So when I received that feedback and I started reading it, they started off with some lovely, good things that done, yada, 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 yada. And then it shifted to something which they thought I wasn't doing well. And I was like, we've been working together for several months, and we've been having one-to-ones. And in all our one-to-ones, you've never raised this concern. So why now, in the middle of all this crisis that I'm going through, you decided to send me a feedback that is visible to my manager? I was disturbed. I felt victimized. So I went from a range of emotion. At first, I thought to myself, I need to defend myself. I need to let them know that what they've done to me is not right. So I thought to attack them, send them a feedback, like give them something equally, shaking like that. And then I moved on. I said, no, you can't do that, Tutu. You're a coach. So what we're going to do is when they're coming from this side in the corridor, I'll go the other way. So I was strategically planning my exit and my entrances of wherever we're going to find ourselves together. And when I'm in meetings, my plan was just to shut down, switch off my camera so they don't have anything to pick on. And if I need to respond to them, I had all this thing going on in my mind. And literally, I moved from all the animals we saw the other time, one after the other. So I'm really amazed. You people are so better than myself. You could only go on two. I was all over the place. I went from one to the other, bam, 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 bam. And you can just imagine I was a bundle of mess. And that journey brought me to the point where I am today, where I started to think. I was very afraid of my job, of losing my job. I was dealing with menopausal symptoms, right, which was really like strange to me. You know, everything that, I mean, internet is full of the symptoms we face as women during that time. To compound that with everything, and I was so hungry. And I started to question, why do we react the way we do to feedback? Why do feedback feel so personal? And how can we go from resistance to growth? Because that's the most important thing. So our journey today, we're going to be talking about how we can recognize the fade-away protective reactions to feedback, and how we can apply the antidotes that will help us to mitigate against those things. And the last one of them is how we can move from resistance to growth in our journey. But then there's something that is really very important, which I've noticed, is that in the middle of all these things, our brain is wired to actually defend us. So every time we are reacting with that visceral reactions to feedback, it's actually our body mechanisms, that humane side of us that is from our ancestors in us to help us to cope when we are triggered or when we sense danger. And feedback sort of represents something like that. It's that same reaction we have when we see a tiger. Immediately you want to run. And when we receive feedback as women, we feel like, oh my God, I want to distance myself away from this. So there's something called amygdala in our brain that sends that fight, flight, freeze, and we respond accordingly. So when you are hijacked by those emotions, it's just natural. So while I was preparing my presentation for my last conference, I gave my slide to a friend and I said, can you just let me have a look at this to see if there's anything that we need to tweak in this thing? And I thought, because, I've given this presentation somewhere and it's just perfect, but I sensed that there could be more. And she came back and she said, Tutu, I think you should do this, 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 this. And I was like, excuse me. Immediately my body reacted defensively. And I said to myself, calm down, girl, calm down. What can we take from this? Listen first to what she's got to say. You ask for it, then listen. So I listened to what she said. And what we have here today is a better, well-packaged presentation because I listened to someone instead of reacting with my defensiveness. So today is a call for us to actually recognize our self-protective reactions that we have to feedback. And as women, I'm not talking about Agile now because we bring a whole lot of ourselves into the workplace. So drop everything that concerns your workplace and come here as a woman in itself, because this is about how you react at the workplace, how you react at home, how you react to each other, girl to girl. So it's applicable in all places. And if we get it right, it will help us to be able to shape the conversation with the next generation and the next generation. So I have put together what I call the self-protective reaction to feedback, and I've been doing a lot of research about this. So we have 3 types of reaction that we face. We have the fight responses to feedback, and we have the fight, argue, deny, explain. Then we have the flight responses, avoid, withdraw. I'm going to explain more about them after now. Then we have the freeze ones, the freeze responses to feedback. We have the absorb and yield. So most of the time we spiral and we go through these patterns. We call it fade away. F.A.D.E. A.W.A.Y. This model isn't a list of your failures. Actually, it is a map of the self-protective system or mechanisms that we've developed over time. And through the pain I went through during my own feedback many years ago, I was able to synthesize this into this model that we can use. So this is just like a map. Is that urge. Sometimes we have that urge to yield and think, I'm not cut out for this. And sometimes we spiral to protect ourselves, our sense of identity, who we are. You know, we talked about bias in that place over there. And it's to help us to cope with future pains that we think somebody wants to bring our way. So by naming it, we take the power back and we're able to stop ourselves just in time before we take a decision or say something that could potentially make a situation worse. So what are these fight responses? Let's start with the first one. So the fight responses, we start with the fight. Okay, I'm trying to click, it's not. Okay, so fight is when you react aggressively, you turn feedback into a battle. And it goes like this. You say something like, I feel attacked. Because I feel attacked, I am going to counterattack so as to make you the problem and not me. And the next one is argue. They try to prove that they are right, and by doing this, the dialogue that is going on in the mind is, I feel attacked, so I'm going to counterattack. So I feel wronged. That is for the argue. I feel wronged. I feel wrong because this is so wrong, and I'm going to prove you factually wrong as well, right? So as to discredit your entire feedback that you have sent to me and protect myself. The next one in the fight responses, we have the deny. The deny, they want to deny every feedback that you've sent to them, such that they want to justify their intention about what has happened. And you say, so that it can show them that, well, I really mean well by everything which I have done, and by so justifying themselves, they will make the feedback that you've sent to them irrelevant. And the next one, we have explain. For those that do a lot of explanation, they overthink instead of engaging with the message of the feedback that you've shared with them. Now, the logic that is going on in their mind is, I feel out of control. Right? So that I'm going to make sure that I control the narrative. Load you with a lot of logic, explanation, analysis, so much so that I exhaust you and I take over the narrative. That is simply it. They lose sense of the core of what the feedback is all about. Then we go to the flight responses. The first one of them is avoid. They feel that feedback is not necessary, so they disengage from it. And the way they do it is that I feel so overwhelmed with the feedback that I've received that I'm going to disengage from it. They will so do this in such a way that they will delay the conversation, right? So that they don't have to have that conversation because they feel some sense of discomfort from that feedback. Then we go to the withdrawal. The dialogue that is going on in the mind of the person that withdraws from a conversation is that because they feel pressured. So I will superficially agree with your feedback and say, yes, I agree with you. But they don't make any change at all. So it's just superficial. There's nothing that's going to change from that. I will not internalize the feedback that I've received because I feel overwhelmed as it is, but I'm just not going to engage with it. Both of them are like twins, but they're slightly a bit different. And it can go from one to the other, as you can see from the story I shared with you earlier. So the next one we have they are the freeze responses. We have the absorb. They see feedback as failure and they shift the blame elsewhere. I feel like a failure. So I will criticize myself so much that you don't have to do it. I'm already criticizing myself. I'm already at fault. So that they will see your feedback, whatever thing you have to say, as unnecessary because I'm already beating myself up. Then the next one is the yield. They feel personally attacked and appears hopeless. So I feel hopeless, so I will yield to self-doubt. Because I feel like a failure, I will criticize. I feel hopeless, right? So I will yield to self-doubt so much so instead of facing the pain of trying again, they feel that they're completely bad and it cannot be redeemed again. So both of them are like twins in the sense that one of them, they absorb, take ownership of just a situation that has happened, but the one that yields to self-doubt, they kind of like, it's everything. I'm not good in anything I do at all. So they use an incident that has happened to generalize everything about themselves. And sometimes we have people that do it to us as well. Because of one thing, they said, you're not good. But that doesn't mean you're not good at the next thing or that other thing, but they generalize and we internalize those feedback. And because it has affected our sense of identity, it's harmed us in ways that I cannot begin to unravel. And that is why people in the workplace sometimes, and even in our homes, go into depression because of the weight, the enormous weight of words that has been spoken or targeted at them. So I want us to do a slight exercise as well with your neighbor this time around. Just change of your neighbor, please. Which of this fade-away reaction feels most familiar to you? Which one of them feels most familiar to you? If you can please help me to put one of each on the table for them, just to have a quick recap of everything which we've talked about. So just tell us, get together and talk about what's the primary for you and secondary. What do you default to? Can you put your primary on a sticky note, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All these?
No, you can take more. Yeah, we have more there. Thank you. Write your primary on a sticky note. A sticky note is going to be shared shortly.
They need to write down which one they identify themselves with,
Their
right?
default. Their default.
The default reaction.
Yes, this one, just here. Yeah. Familiar. Okay, yes. Which fadeaway reaction feels most familiar to you? So I'm sure you've written something on your sticky notes, right? Okay, so let's do some legwork, right? So let's paste it on one of the whiteboard, please. Somebody can take it for the whole table, place it on the whiteboard. Thank you very much. So we can move on.
No, this one, right?
Yeah, the whiteboard. Thank you. Amazing. I can see several. I can see several patterns now. Wow. Thank you. So if you're not yet added yours to the sticky, please go on. All right. So, but how can we start changing? How can we start developing? So my question for you is, how can we cut short that time of when we react to when we start actually developing and moving towards growth? If you work in any leadership position, if you work with people, if you have siblings, you get feedback constantly. If you have those little ones at home, you're constantly getting feedback. If you have a partner, you're constantly getting feedback. If you have parents who still believe that at whatever age you're still a child, you're constantly getting feedback. So we come across this in different areas of our lives. And the amazing thing is that we need to cut short that time. Understand yourself is that self-awareness that will help you to be able to make the shift. So there's Kübler-Ross Change Curve in the workplace, which talks about the change people go through when they are triggered or when they are going through life. I'm going to try this one more time. Okay, all right, okay. My computer as well is decided, if maybe freeze up. Okay, so this is the curve. That's the original pattern. If we see that when somebody is triggered, this is the Kübler-Ross one. And from the pattern of the fade-away model I gave us, the fade-away, this is the time we spend reacting to feedback. And it's such a long time. People go through phases. This is actually, the Kübler-Ross one is for phases people go through when they're experiencing grief. And when you're triggered, when you receive feedback, it's as if somebody has put a dagger in your chest and you're experiencing something close to grief. So, how can we make that change and shorten that time? See, make it really short. Then we have this green line that we can start growing when we receive feedback. We can start experimenting with ideas, making decisions, integrating the feedback into ourselves so that we can improve. Because every feedback we receive is data point. There's always a 2% chance that it is true, some element of it. And it's being able, as coaches, as leaders, as scrum masters, as developers, as testers, as anyone working with any other human being, being able to hold that space for yourself and say, there might be a 2% chance Let me hang on to this and see what I can do with it. Then to have allies around you that can help you process the 2% in such a way that can help you develop. And that is where I made what I call the coiled approach to feedback. Because when I developed the fade-away concept, I'm like, okay, so you've identified the different angles or things that happen to you, the emotions that you go through. But then that's only, you've identified something. Yeah, clap for yourself, you've done something. But how else can you help people process? Because I told you I'm a coach, right? And I'm not just an agile coach, I'm a professional coach, meaning that I am accredited by the International Coaching Federation. So how do I help my clients to be able to process information as data and move through the process as givers of feedback and as receivers of feedback? And that is when I came up with a coaching-inspired approach to feedback. And it talks about, there's an age-old concept about coin as a way of giving feedback, and there's coil that later came. But I now thought about it. All this frame speaks to one person, the giver. What about the receiver? How do you help them to process? So my frame is supposed to help both the giver and the receiver. And the first thing which you need to start with is curiosity. We talked about the 2%, right? Curiosity. From the receiver, from the giver, you ask for context. If somebody has given you a feedback, I would like to know what examples would help me to grow. Because if we can lay on an example, how am I supposed to know when I actually defaulted to my fade away? You know, I need to know what has actually happened. That's the why behind the moment. Then we have openness. Openness to be able to listen, to be able to get it, to be able to give space. Space to be able to hear the other person, not be closed up. Because when you're still in your fade-away moment, you're closed. You're not ready. You're not ready to process anything. And it's being able, as a giver of feedback, to recognize if this person is open. First of all, to be able to have an intelligent conversation about the feedback is very, very important. Because when I receive my feedback, you know what I did? I'm not proud of it. Within 1 hour of receiving it, I requested to have a meeting with the person that gave me that feedback. And it was messy, it was ugly, it was teary, it was nonsense. So I was in that meeting and it didn't go well. 1 hour of back and forth, nothing resolved. Packed a whole lot of emotion on myself and this other person. I should have done better. I expected more of myself. And that disappointment of actually not doing what I believe I should have done, compounded with the information I got, really weighed on me. So next one is inquiry. That is, you explore the meaning to gain clarity for impact, and you reflect on your own action as well. Have I given this feedback well? And that brings me to the point, which I'm going to mention now because I don't want to forget it. As givers of feedback, it is very important, especially since we work in the agile space. And we're not just agile at our place of work, we're agile in life, right? We don't do waterfall feedback. You don't take somebody and dump 7, 10 things which you think they should work on them at once. As human beings, we can't process. Many of you lead teams, and what you tell your team members is don't context switch, don't multitask. Focus on one user story on the board and see it through. So why would you bring that? Why would you bring multiple feedback to one person and help you expect them to process it? You're kind of like killing their spirit and demotivating them. And also, if you've worked with people for such a time, you have face-to-face contact. And if you're not having face-to-face contact, boo, on you, because you should. And that is one of the principles of Agile, that we constantly work together. Interaction is very, very important. That means we are having our one-to-one and we are making it in such a way that we are giving and we are receiving. So how good is your one-to-one? Then we listen to one another. This is really very important. We talk about one-to-one listening. I listen to you, you listen to me. We listen to each other. I listen to myself. What exactly is going on in me? Then we listen globally, what else is happening in the world around. So I worked with a team member at one time that there was war in their country. The war started and I needed to give her feedback, and I know she had families and it was an emotional period for her. I was very careful to hold her in my hands carefully, despite the fact that I knew I needed to give her feedback. So what is happening around that person? So if you've been using your one-to-one very well, you should know what is happening with your people. It shouldn't come as a surprise. So that is why that relationship building, we talked about connection over there, the connection matters a lot in how you're listening to people. So you're not just listening to their work, because we bring the totality of ourselves to that place of work. So it's not just about the codes they're writing, it's about everything else they come up with. So we talked about, have moved fast, right? So let's talk about empathy. Empathy as the receiver, and that is where resilience comes in. Empathy for yourself because it has landed on me and I need to process it. Don't jump straight into having a conversation when you know you're still triggered in that condition. Empathy for yourself to be able to say, yes, I know, I feel it, I've received this, and I need to show some compassion for myself. My way of reacting to things is just for me to cry. And once I cry, the emotion goes out. I'm able to sit down and reflect and process. You find your own mojo, then you're able to work with what works for you. Then development. This is the part. How can we co-create development? How can we co-create growth from what has happened? And it's in understanding the 2%. Now, if somebody has given you a feedback that doesn't resonate with you, you have other people you've worked with. Because I just can't see, I purposely use this bow on my head. Can you see? I can't see it, but you all can. And that's the beauty of feedback. I can't see how pretty it is. I can't admire it. But if I stand here like this, you guys can wax lyrics about it. But I can't. And that is where feedback comes into play. So how can we do better? This is like an antidote that we can use. And I will exemplify this with a short example. So there's this Agile coach that gave feedback to Joyce. Joyce is a Scrum Master. And we have Lola, that is an Agile coach that gave feedback to Joyce. And it went like this. Lola said to Joyce, Joyce, I saw the presentation that you've dropped for me in my inbox, and it looks like it's missing an important part of the presentation we're supposed to give to the stakeholders. And Lola comes like this. Oh, well, that was the bit I could do with the time frame that we were given. You didn't give us enough time for us to be able to process the information and get the slides ready. As an Agile coach, we have to give a presentation to the stakeholders. So me as an Agile coach, that is Lola, is now thinking, what exactly does this person mean? We've done this thing over and over again. They know we need to have that particular slide on the presentation pack because the stakeholders are going to ask for it. They actually volunteered and everything was explained to them. And instead, my response to Lola, this was the internal dialogue going on in my mind. And I said to Lola, okay, Lola, I hear you. So what part of the time frame is it that was difficult? And Lola said, actually, it's not just about the time frame. When I got to know about the presentation and I volunteered for it, I put up the presentation and I needed to confirm some questions from you. I went to your decks to actually speak with you because it was our day in the office, you know. There are several places of work. They have 2 days, 1 day, like that in the office. And I didn't see you on your seat. And as I was leaving, and I saw Rita. Rita said, oh, there's a meeting that they actually need me to contribute to. And I went to that meeting because I thought it wasn't taking place again. And while I was in that meeting, we finished quite late. I got to my desk. I realized that I didn't save the files. And I needed to start all over again. By the time I finished, it was already getting late. And I wanted to come to you, then my computer decided to do a reboot. And then, what did that person do? Excessive explanation. That wasn't necessary. And what Lola said eventually was, I feel such a failure. I should have known that this is really very important and make sure that I drop you a message on chat when I didn't see you when I walked to your desk. Now, as a coach, what should I say? All right, hold on there. I can understand that the time frame wasn't so favorable, and I never said that you're a failure. It takes a whole lot to be able to volunteer for this kind of a thing for a first time to present to the stakeholders. And I appreciate you, volunteering for that. All right. So let us see how we can work together to fix the issue. Now, what have you done? You have ensured that you validate them first because they volunteered for something. The second thing which you did is to tell them that you did not think they are a failure. That is really very important as a people person. And the next one is that let us sit together and see how we can move this forward. How important is this in the grand scheme of things? This goes to show you that co-creation and not taking agency away from people is really very important. And as an agile coach, right, she could have said, all right, yeah, I'm just going to fix this and just get it done because we are short of time. What have you done? You've taken agency away from them and autonomy away from the team. Because even as agile coaches, you are also working with other scrum masters in other places, leading people. And when you think it's all about the engineers only, no, the principle applies to everyone across board. And that is the autonomy that we give to people and co-creating a place or process where we can grow together, developing others. Right. And in all this, listening is really very important. It's an understanding what is the fade-away this person is experiencing at the moment. And they can move from one to the other, right? The Scrum Master moved through different fade-away moments. And as an agile coach, even though you want to say something like, what the sugar does this person mean, right? You're being paid for this, we're all in this meeting, I don't have to take all this from you. But then that's your internal dialogue. But you have to process it as well and say, and it's being prepared for situations like this when you're working with other people. So we're going to do a small demo, right, where we're going to find a partner, and it's going to be very short, and you're going to share an instance. Now, have I moved too fast now? Okay, right. Find a partner and share. Think of a moment when feedback triggered tension, either on your team or maybe a personal experience between you and a child, or somewhere outside of the workplace where you are volunteering or holding a responsible position. How did you or the other person respond? Which single called element would have been most powerful as an antidote to start with in that situation? So find your partner very quickly. Right. Out of time. We're out of time. 10 minutes more.
No, it's finished. It should finish at 10, right?
10? Yeah. No, I should have asked you to let me know at 10 after. What?
We should finish at 10, so.
We're out of time right now. Okay. All right. We'll round up. Check. I did too. Running out of time. Check.
The last exercise, right? You have many more there?
No, this one and then Q&A, that's all.
Oh, okay.
This is 15.
Maybe not 3 minutes, but less.
Yes. I had a coffee cup on my table. Please, can you retake my photo again? Okay, we need to wrap up right now. We need to wrap up. I was just told our time is up. Thank you very much. We can continue the conversation. I know it's really very interesting to share your experience. Okay, so let's press pause. Thank you. So how can we start modeling, naming it, practicing, and celebrating ourselves as women that are resilient? It sounds amazing for us to see all these things, but how do we start putting it into practice every day? You can start with your retrospective session. Check the 4 for fade-away moments or patterns that you've noticed throughout the whole sprint, and give people feedback, continuous feedback. During sessions, you yourself practice coiled moment. And when you've noticed that you've stepped out of line, you can say, I just noticed I was a bit defensive there, right? So I do apologize for that, but yes. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen and be calm in this situation. That way you embody what you're talking about. You're not just preaching. You are actually doing the do. So in our daily practice, feedback should be timely. Feedback should not come as a surprise to anybody. I tell everybody I work with, I contract with them and I tell them, I'm working with you, I'm going to give you feedback. And I expect feedback from you. What I'm asking is that you give me timely feedback. Don't dump feedback on me. And I promise you, I'm not going to do the same for you. But that doesn't stop people from doing what they shouldn't do, right? So that places where the coil is applicable. When somebody has given you feedback, 1 or 2, fine. But if somebody has done a waterfall feedback on you, don't go and have a conversation, please. It's too much. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to have to confront somebody and talk about 7-point agenda. Oh, it's exhausting and emotionally draining. Give it to the next point of escalation within your practice and let them deal with it. You need a mediator. So, team agreement. Set it with your team. We're going to have conflict. We're human beings. I'm going to step on your toes. You're going to step on mine. So how do we resolve conflict? How do we want to be together when we disagree? And how do we want to be together? Sorry. You're going to have this slide, I promise you. How do we want to be together when we are not in agreement? Is having that understanding from the get-go. I'm going to give you feedback. We're going to give each other feedback as a team. How do we want it to be? So when somebody steps out of line, we already have our ways of working concerning how we want to give feedback. So, key takeaways. What we've learned today, we've connected everything together from fade-away to coiled, and it is what makes a woman in the Agile space, resilient, and unstoppable is how we're able to receive feedback so that we don't feel like a failure. We don't just absorb it. We don't fight back. We don't defend. We understand ourselves in the moment and we're able to choose, make another choice, choose to be coiled. And that coil is the transformation. Remember my first picture I showed you? It shows the different stages of growth of a butterfly, and you're able to transform like a butterfly and fly through every moment. So without much ado, I want everyone to think about what is that thing that they want to take away with them and do following this. And provide feedback for me as well, how you think this session has been able to impact you going forward. Thank you very much. Any question? You can connect with me on social media. Yeah, so any question? Do you have a question? Yes. Can we have a mic for her?
As a giver, when I'm giving feedback and I see that the receiver is completely shut down, like maybe the A.W.A.Y part,
Yep.
how do I go into the next step? Because the first thing is for them to accept
Okay.
feedback.
Yeah.
Because I can't just go into next steps with, okay, let's try this and let's look into the future
Yeah.
if I don't get the kind of right response. So how do you make that change?
Okay, so if you've given somebody different ways of giving feedback, written or verbal. So if you've given feedback, right, and sometimes our facial cue is already feedback in itself that, I don't like this, but I'm not saying it and I've not written it down. So if you've been verbal about the feedback, if you've set the scene in the right place, and if it's been a timely one that's been going on, right, and you've given somebody feedback and it's landed maybe negative with them and you can see the visceral reaction on their body. What you can do as a giver of the feedback is to give them space. Is to ask them, as a coach, I will ask them what exactly do they need. Let them name it. Do they want to have the conversation right now? Right? And if they want to have it, and I see that they're very much triggered, I will ask for us to postpone it, sleep on it, reflect on it, then we'll come back to have a conversation. Because there's no point in talking with somebody that is triggered. I will get triggered, definitely. And I don't trust myself in a triggered state. Yes. Any other questions, please? If not, thank you very much. And I hope you're able to come to this place and give me feedback about my session, what you will do following this session, what you want to improve. So please just write something on the sticky notes and paste here for me. Particularly, I like to receive feedback. Very well, please. Thank you.